Hello everyone, welcome to section 5.2 on the trig functions of real numbers. What we're going to do in this section today is kind of hopefully put together two different ideas that we've been talking about so far. So we first talked about SOHCAHTOA, what sine, cosine, and tangent meant, and the other three trig functions, and they had to do with the ratios of the sides of a triangle. But then we started to talk about the unit circle. We have the circle of radius 1, and we were practicing trying to figure out the x and y coordinates if we traveled a certain distance around the unit circle. Well, what we want to do today is try to bridge those two ideas together. So let's do that. Let's draw a picture of the unit circle. Okay. So here's the unit circle. This x-coordinate right here would be 1 and 0. This would be 0 and 1. And let's think that we're at a random location, let's say right here, for example. Let's draw this picture here. So we have the x and y coordinates. Well, like I've been advertising, circles and triangles are best friends. So let's go ahead and draw a triangle. Maybe a different color. A little green. And we'll think we've rotated an angle theta. So by thinking of rotating angle theta, or thinking about if this is in terms of radians, this would be the same thing as t, the certain distance we've traveled along the unit circle. So for this triangle right here, since we're on the unit circle, the length of hypotenuse will always be 1. And the distance, I guess, of the adjacent side would be what we call x, and the height here would be y. So let's go look at SOHCAHTOA, or some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. And let's think about what sine and cosine mean on this unit circle. So let's start with sine. Sine of theta. Sine of theta is the same thing as opposite over hypotenuse. Well, our opposite side, if we're looking here, is y. And the hypotenuse is 1. So what we have here is that sine of theta is equal to y. That means that when we're on the unit circle, we can always think of the y-coordinate as being the sine of that angle. Beautiful. What about cosine? What about cosine? Well, cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, if we look at the unit circle here, the adjacent side is x, and the hypotenuse is 1. So the cosine of theta is x over 1, or the cosine of theta is equal to x. That means that the x-coordinate on the unit circle is the same thing as the cosine of theta. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, how about instead of writing x here, instead of writing x and y, the x-coordinate is the same thing as cosine of theta, and the y-coordinate is the same thing as sine of theta. Now the next question is, what is tangent? Well, tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. So that would be, sorry, opposite over adjacent. So the tan of theta, the opposite is y, and the adjacent is x. So we've come to our one of our first, I guess, trig identities. What's true about tangent is tangent is equivalent to y over x, but y we just discovered is the same thing as sine of theta. And our x-coordinate we discovered is the same thing as cosine of theta. So tangent is the same as sine divided by cosine. But what does it mean on the unit circle? Tangent is y over x. Tangent is a vertical distance divided by a horizontal distance. Do you smell that? That smells a whole lot like slope. A rise over a run. So tangent is the same thing as rise over run. Tangent is measuring the slope of this line as we rotate around the unit circle. Tan of theta is the slope of the line on the unit circle. Beautiful. And it's beautiful. Anytime I think about sine, cosine, or tangent, I always think about it in terms of the unit circle. It's always great for us to know SOHCAHTOA. But whenever I'm thinking about sine of theta, I'm thinking about the height on the unit circle. Whenever I'm thinking about cosine of theta, I'm thinking about the width on the unit circle. And whenever I'm thinking about tangent, I'm always thinking in my head that what does tangent measure? It measures the slope of this line as we rotate around the unit circle. So that's all I have for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.